Good morning, fourth grade. We're ready for language lesson 156. And the first thing today is that we have a book report. So I would like you to turn to page 100 in your language book, page 100. That is where you will find your checklist for your book report. We've gone over this a number of times. Let's just quickly go over this. Your first paragraph needs to have all of the information about your book, your title, author, type of book, number of pages. The next paragraph needs to tell what the book is about. The next paragraph should be an interesting part of the book. Then you're going to write, I have read this entire book, and if you have read the entire book, you'll sign your name. You're supposed to use your best penmanship, indent your paragraphs, use transition words like next, later, however. Vary the beginnings of your sentences. Don't start them all the same. And do not start sentences with and, but, or so. Then you need to look over your book report, check for spelling, punctuation, capitalization. Go over the whole checklist here, and then correct anything that you see is wrong. So today, page 100, use that to write your book report. Tomorrow, we will be doing oral report cards, and the next day, we'll be giving your oral book report to your family. Okay, so page 100, I have it written here on the board so you can see it, and make sure you turn to the right page, get your checklist, and do that. Pages 241 to 243 in your language book are the rest of the pages for your lesson today. First of all, we're just going to review a few things here, and then you can get started. So, we've been talking about subject-verb agreement and how a singular subject needs a singular verb. And remember, plural subjects end in S, and singular subjects do not end in S. But it's the opposite with the verbs. Plural verbs do not usually end in S, but singular verbs usually end in S. Okay? So you need to get a singular subject with a singular verb, plural subject with plural verb. But remember, they're opposite from each other. Let's just go over those a little bit here. I'm going to give you a sentence and an option of two different verbs, and you tell me which one you think the sentence needs. The colt and its mother is or are playing in the field. Are, because it's two, it's compound, so it's plural. Are does not end in S, so that's your plural verb. Your pen and pencil is or are lying on the floor. You have a compound subject, which is plural, so you need are. The house with all its contents was or were destroyed. House was or were destroyed. It's one house, so you should have was. Your singular verb usually ends in S. Cereal and toast is or are my favorite breakfast foods. Are, because it's compound, which means it's plural, so you need are, the plural verb. One more. The ship with all its crew was or were sunk. Crew is one, crew. So you need the singular verb. Which one is the singular verb? The one that ends in S. Was. Okay. Now, we talked about lie and lay and sit and set. You need to be careful to use the right one, depending on what you're talking about. You do not sit down on a chair, but you might set your dog on the chair, okay? You set things, but you sit down. Also, lie and lay. You do not lie your books on the table. You lay them on the table, okay? Let's just go over those together here. So, we have sit, which means to rest or be seated, and the forms on page 237 here, you can follow along. We have sit, sitting, sat, and have sat. Sit sitting, sat, and has sat all mean to rest or be seated. So if that's what you're talking about, you have to use one of those 4 options. The verb set means to put or place something, and the forms of set are set, setting, set, and have set. So if you're talking about putting or placing something, you have to use one of those 4 forms. Then lie means to rest or recline. Lie, lying, lay, and have lain. So if you're talking about resting or reclining, you have to use lie, lying, lay, or have lain. Okay? Then we have lay, which means to put or place something. And the forms of lay are lay, laying, laid, and have laid. So if you're talking about putting or placing something, you have to use one of those forms. And these are on page 239. So you're working a lot with those words in your lesson today. So you can look back to page 239 and page 237 and look at the different forms for each word and what the word means, and think about which meaning you want in your sentence. Be very careful to use the word with the correct meaning. So in your lesson today, see on page 241, do page 242 and page 243, and make sure you do your book report. It's a good bit of homework today, but just do your best. It's a review lesson, so that should help. Work carefully, and I hope it goes well, and I hope you have a good afternoon.